23 minutes before 9 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. It's time now for Robin and I to do the segment that we call NewsBites. We take the news from around the world, around the nation, around the state, and around town, and we abbreviate it, we shorten it, we get to the point, cut to the chase, and give you a chance to sit with your radio for about 23 minutes and hear as many news stories as Robin and I can manage to squeeze in there. It's not all of the story. Sometimes there is more to it, but we give you the gist of it, and we also give you the news agency that we got the story from, so you can look it up yourself and read the details if, in fact, you're interested. There you go. So let's just begin. The first story is this troubling story out of the Ukraine, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse. At least, and I'm getting it from ABC News. Yes, I am. Thank you. At least 22 people died today after clashes resumed in Kiev, a deadly escalation of violence in the Ukrainian capital one day after a ceasefire was issued, according to a report issued by the Associated Press. According to ABC News producer Bruno Rober, security forces fired live ammunition at protesters. Molotov cocktails were thrown at police. Medics used the lobby of one hotel as a makeshift hospital to tend to the wounded. The foreign ministers of France, Germany, and Poland are reported to be meeting with President Viktor Yanukovych in Kiev. The European Union will hold an emergency meeting in Brussels later today to consider sanctions. The wave of violence comes after the country's embattled president and top opposition leaders met and called for a truce and negotiations. The two sides are locked in a battle over the identity of this nation of 46 million people whose loyalties are divided between Russia and the West, and parts of the country are in an open revolt against the central government. The latest bout of street violence began on Tuesday, when protesters attacked police lines and set fires outside of Parliament, accusing Yanukovych, I apologize for not saying his name smoothly, of ignoring their demands to enact constitutional reforms that would limit the president's power, a key opposition demand. Wow, just getting worse and worse.
And this is another troubling story right here in Florida out of Lake Mary, reported by the Florida News Network. A Seminole County man is behind bars after deputies say that he molested a young child at a Lake Mary, Florida daycare during nap time. Sheriff's deputies say a 4-year-old girl told her mother that 44-year-old Harry Shane Rubin made her touch his private parts at the Legacy Academy in exchange for candy. According to the arrest report, Rubin admitted to hugging the girl and that she may have touched him. Deputies are now investigating whether there are more victims. Rubin is still at the John E. Polk Correctional Facility without bond.
Yeah, Robin, I mean, whether it's... I won't make too many comments, but whether it's hundreds of people or one person, if it's disgraceful, it's disgraceful. Mm-hmm. All right, the next story is... from Fox News. It has become such a repeated mantra in mainstream Republican circles that it could be nearing cliche status. If the Republican Party is looking to stay politically viable in the future, it must win over Hispanic voters. But thus far, it has become a case of easier said than done, considering Latinos have traditionally voted overwhelmingly Democrat. But the Republicans need not lose hope, party insiders say. Just look to Texas. A revealing Gallup poll unveiled this month found that in the Lone Star State, more Hispanics identify themselves as Republicans than in the country as a whole. Nationwide, Democrats hold a 30% advantage among Hispanics over Republicans, but in Texas, that number is just 19%.
Federal Reserve policymakers backed away from their year-old commitment to consider raising interest rates when unemployment falls below 6.5%, with the joblessness falling faster than expected. Even as other labor market indicators show weakness, policymakers agreed it would soon be appropriate to revise their guidance about how long the era of record low interest rates will remain, minutes after their January meeting. Several policymakers also said that in the absence of an appreciable change in the economic outlook, there should be a clear presumption in favor of continuing to trim the Fed's bond purchases by $10 billion at each meeting, reported by Bloomberg.
And the next story is from This is one of those rare ones. Oh, there it is, AP. This is from the Associated Press. Facebook Incorporated agreed to buy messaging company WhatsApp for $19 billion in cash and stock, a blockbuster transaction that dwarfs the already sky-high prices that other startups have been able to recently command. The 55-employee company, which acts as a kind of replacement for text messaging, has seen its use more than double in the past 9 months to 450 million monthly users. That makes its service more popular than Twitter, which is the widely used microblogging service that has about 240 million users and is currently valued at about $30 billion. The transaction, which includes $3 billion in restricted stock units to be granted to WhatsApp's founders and employees over 4 years, ranks as the largest ever purchase of a company backed by venture capital.
Stevie Nicks is a Game of Thrones fan, and she told the UK's Radio Times magazine that she would love to write some music for the show. This is a quote from Fleetwood Mac singer Stevie Nicks. "I've written a bunch of poetry about it, one for each of the characters." Nicks said she started watching the show after the December 2011 death of her mother and credited it with helping to take her mind off things during a difficult time, reported by ABC News.
And from CNN, the U.S. government has warned airlines to pay particular attention to the possibility of terrorists attempting to hide explosives in shoes, a result of new intelligence, according to two people familiar with the situation. The officials stressed there is no specific threat or known plot. Intelligence collected by the United States and other countries has indicated terror groups have been working on new shoe bomb designs, according to the sources in the news that was issued yesterday. That knowledge prompted the Department of Homeland Security to warn airlines to be on the lookout for possible explosives hidden in shoes on flights from overseas to the United States. And I got the story from CNN.
Former U.S. Representative Melvin Reynolds remains in a Zimbabwe jail after a court hearing on charges of violating immigration, censorship laws, and pornographies, according to officials. Reynolds did not enter a plea to the charges after his attorney asked the judge for more time to consult with his client, the Zimbabwe Daily News reported yesterday. Prosecutors allege Reynolds, age 62, overstayed his visa after entering Zimbabwe in November on a 2-week business visa, which was later extended until December the 10th. He was arrested Monday at a Harare hotel. Officials said Reynolds had unpaid bills of $24,500 from his stay at that hotel and a second one, reported by UPI News.
And the next story is from the Globe and Mail, which I believe is a Canadian newspaper. A Nebraska court decision yesterday has thrown another hurdle in the path of TransCanada Corporation as it pushes for U.S. approval of the controversial Keystone XL pipeline. A Nebraska District Court decision struck down the law that paved the way for the pipeline's construction in the state is being viewed as another significant setback for TransCanada, which has been pushing for project approval from the Obama administration for more than 5 years. The company had been buoyed last month by a U.S. State Department environmental impact statement that concluded that the approval of Keystone XL, which would transport oil sands crude from Alberta to Texas, would have little impact on the pace or scale of oil sands development and hence on the amount of greenhouse gases emitted into the atmosphere.
People stationed at North Carolina's Camp Lejeune while the water there was contaminated were more likely to die from several types of cancer as well as Lou Gehrig's disease, according to an official government report released yesterday. It's the latest in a series of reports showing the contaminated water at the base seriously affected Marines and their families. This is a quote from Frank Bove of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The study found elevated risks at Camp Lejeune for several causes of death, including cancers of the kidney, liver, esophagus, cervix, multiple myeloma, Hodgkin lymphoma, and ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, reported by MSNBC.
And the next story is from the Associated Press. Google Fiber is devoted to making the internet 100 times faster than it is for most of the United States. On February 19th, yesterday, Google announced plans to bring the upgrade to several cities spread across 9 different metropolitan areas, including Atlanta and Nashville, Tennessee. People are hungrier than ever for faster internet, and as a result, cities across America are making speed a priority. That's a statement from Milo Meaden, the vice president of Google Access Services, in a release issued yesterday on their blog. He went on to say, quote, "Now that we've learned a lot from our Google Fiber projects in Kansas City, Austin, and Provo, we want to help build more ultra-fast networks," unquote. But those eager to ditch their current service providers for Google may want to wait before pulling the trigger. Google will work with the cities to evaluate exactly how it would install its fiber optic network.
Barack Obama begins a North American summit in Mexico today with a gesture of defiance toward allies in Congress who are hampering his ability to negotiate controversial trade liberalization agreements. In the latest in a series of so-called executive actions promised in Obama's State of the Union address, the U.S. president will sign new measures to speed up imports and exports for businesses by reducing bureaucratic barriers. Though more limited than the sweeping free trade agreement with China that Obama plans to discuss later with Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto and Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, the White House claims that streamlining trade rules will help business further integrate their supply chains and boost jobs, reported by The Guardian.
And the next story is from ABC News. Tempers are rising as the snow continues falling. It seems as though seasonal affective disorder has hit much of the northeastern United States. Tempers flare as temperatures drop and residents plow through the snow, anxiously waiting for spring's seemingly overdue arrival. A Michigan man has been charged with assault with the intent to commit murder and assault with a dangerous weapon after allegedly firing a handgun at a tractor plow, shattering its window. Pittsfield police found Bevan Wilson, who is charged with shooting at the snowplow's driver, may have been trying to kill him and not just break the window. It's a statement from the deputy chief of police in that town. The driver escaped without any injuries.
The ringleader of a group of U.S. soldiers who raped an Iraqi girl and murdered her and her family has been found dead in an apparent suicide. Stephen Dale Green, age 28, was found on Saturday in his cell at a federal prison in Arizona, where he was serving multiple life sentences. In 2006, he raped Abir Qasim al-Janabi, age 14, before killing her and setting her body on fire. The crime came to light after Green was discharged from the military. He was the first ex-soldier charged and convicted under the Military Extraterritorial Jurisdiction Act, which gave U.S. civilian courts jurisdiction over crimes committed overseas. The law was designed to prosecute military contractors employed in wartime situations, reported by the BBC.
And from the Associated Press, the second floor of an activity center at a rural Mississippi church collapsed during an evening youth service, sending about 70 people crashing down and injuring 35 of them, survivors and authorities said this morning. The injuries were not life-threatening, according to an official. Pastor Tommy Davis at Freedom Baptist Church in Myrick told the Chronicle in Laurel, which is a newspaper there, that the floor at the activity center collapsed as dozens of youth held a worship service Wednesday evening last night. Witnesses described an ominous-sounding rumble before the floor crashed down. In the middle of the student service, the floor, which is the second-story floor, gave way, causing about 70 students to fall, Davis said. But it's got to be said that no one was seriously injured, no one was trapped. God's hand was certainly taking care of the kids who were in that building, he said. Survivors reported brief moments of panic before calm was restored. Linda Cranford, a spokeswoman for the Jones County Fire Council in the region where the church is located, told the newspaper that 35 people were hurt, but none of the injuries were life-threatening. She said a 16-year-old girl with a head injury was taken to a hospital in Hattiesburg.
Volkswagen's top labor representative threatened yesterday to try to block further investments by the German car maker in the southern United States if its workers there are not unionized. Workers at VW's factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee last Friday voted against representation by the United Auto Workers Union, rejecting efforts by VW representatives to set up a German-style works council at the plant. German workers enjoy considerable influence over company decisions under the legally enshrined co-determination principle, which is anathema to many politicians in the U.S. who see organized labor as a threat to profits and job growth. Chattanooga is VW's only factory in the United States and one of the company's few in the world without a works council, reported by Reuters.
And from CBS News, soldiers carry them into battle, fly them high over foreign bases, and triumphantly carry them in processions, with those stars and stripes until now have often been made in China. That irony spurred North Bay Congressman Mike Thompson to write legislation requiring American flags purchased by the Department of Defense to be 100% made in America, according to a report that CBS filed in the city of San Francisco. That legislation is now law, signed as part of the 2014 Omnibus Appropriations Bill. Thompson said in a quote, "I thought it was appalling our Department of Defense would have flags made in other countries, but it's also important because we need to be making more in America," unquote.
Rocker turned Second Amendment activist Ted Nugent, who's just taken to the campaign trail for Texas Governor hopeful Greg Abbott, has already irked Democrats with his recent slamming of President Obama as a subhuman mongrel. Mr. Nugent called Mr. Obama the term during an interview last month with Guns.com. His full statement, and this is a quote from Ted Nugent, "I have obviously failed to galvanize and prod, if not shame, enough Americans to be ever vigilant not to let a Chicago communist-raised, communist-educated, communist-nurtured, subhuman mongrel like the Acorn community organizer gangster Barack Hussein Obama to weasel his way into the top office of authority in the United States of America," reported by the Washington Times.
And this story is from ABC News. A petition to split California into 6 different states has gotten the go-ahead. A venture capitalist who feels colossal California is too unwieldy to govern is proposing to split the state into 6 separate states, and Secretary of State Deborah Bowen has given the green light to start collecting petition signatures. Tim Draper filed a ballot initiative in December stating that because of recent social and economic changes, California has become nearly ungovernable. He proposed dividing California into 6 states. San Diego and Orange County would make up South California. West California would include Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, while Bakersfield, Fresno, and Stockton would make up the larger Central California. San Francisco and San Jose would be in the new Silicon Valley state, and North California would include the Sacramento area, and Jefferson would be the name of the Redding and Eureka area. California, as it is ungovernable, Draper said in a report to ABC News, is more and more difficult for Sacramento to keep up with the social issues from the various regions of the state. With 6 Californias, he says, people will be closer to their state governments and states will be able to get a refresher.
The Treasury Department is levying financial sanctions against a Colombian suspected of leading an international drug trafficking and money laundering organization that exported nearly 100 tons of cocaine a year from Colombia. The department said yesterday that Fernán Rodriguez Vasquez allegedly managed the trafficking operations of Lebanese-Colombian national Jorge Falal Lashutili. Vasquez was sanctioned under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. Treasury also designated 7 others and 5 entities in Colombia suspected of assisting Vasquez, often in collaboration with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia and Mexico's Los Zetas and Sinaloa drug cartels. This is reported by the Las Vegas Sun, and thank you, Larry, for providing the phonetic pronunciation of the gentleman's name.
Well, thank the news agency. I wouldn't have known how to pronounce it either. It was provided to me. I just gave it to you. All right, the next story from ABC. Scientists who monitor the nation's only underground nuclear waste repository say they have detected radiation in the air a half mile from the site. Russell Hardy, director of the Carlsbad Environmental Monitoring and Research Center, said yesterday a monitor near the waste isolation pilot plant in southeastern New Mexico has detected trace amounts of the radioactive isotopes americium and plutonium. He says the levels are the highest ever detected at or around the site, but are far below those deemed unsafe by the Environmental Protection Agency. The readings came after a radiation alert over the weekend from an underground sensor at the site. Hardy says readings will be completed next week on filters collected from that underground sensor and an air monitor closer to the plant.
The Florida Lottery sets an all-time weekly scratch-off record. The Florida Lottery is reporting that more people purchased tickets for its scratch-off games last week than ever before in history. Lottery officials say $78.5 million in scratch-off game tickets were sold the week beginning of February the 10th. That's $4.5 million more than the previous record, which was set in March of 2012, reported by the Florida News Network.
And the Associated Press is reporting this story. NBC News anchor Brian Williams had a quick on-air response after Arsenio Hall needled him for excluding Hall from a video montage of late-night hosts. Arsenio is a late-night veteran, and he took us to task on his show, and he even urged his audience members to call our newsroom, Williams said on his nightly news telecast last night from the Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. So, in apologizing to Arsenio, we just wanted to point out, at least you're in good company here, Williams continued, noting that the newscast last year left New Hampshire off a map and on Tuesday misspelled Philadelphia on screen. Hall's exclusion came during what he called NBC News' Brady Bunch montage, showing clips of virtually every late-night TV host, including David Letterman, Chelsea Handler, and Carson Daly. The video was used on Monday's nightly news segment on The Tonight Show debut of Jimmy Fallon, also on NBC. On Tuesday's syndicated The Arsenio Hall Show, the host was smiling, but clearly irked as he displayed the graphic and called out Williams and journalism in general. They left out Arsenio.
Oh, gee. President George W. Bush has made a point of staying out of the political limelight since he left the White House 5 years ago. But there's still one perk that he misses from his time as president, Air Force One. Bush said in Dallas, Texas, "I miss Air Force One. In 8 years, they never lost my baggage." Bush made his comments while highlighting the Bush Institute's military service initiative with Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of Vice President Biden. Bush, who hosts an annual 100-kilometer mountain bike ride for wounded veterans and as well as a Warrior Open golf tournament, said he remains committed to ensuring veterans successfully transition to civilian life. Bush also stressed the importance of dropping the word disorder from PTSD in order to end the false stigma affecting many veterans. This is a quote from Bush. "The problem with post-traumatic stress is not the condition itself. The problem is the stigma surrounding the condition. As most doctors will tell you today, post-traumatic stress is not a disorder. Post-traumatic stress, or PTS, is an injury that can result from the experience of war, and like other injuries, PTS is treatable."
And that's all the time we have for News Bites. And yeah, I agree. I agree with him. I think that word disorder should be taken out of that. It's a good observation. All right. We do this each morning from about 8:37 or so until 9 o'clock. It gives us 23 minutes to read the news to you and shorten it up so that you get as many stories in there as possible. And remember, if you're a business and you'd like us to help you get some new customers through your door, let us help you. Team up with WOCA, and we will use the talented staff here, both production as well as everybody else here, to make sure that those customers hear about you and show up at your door. The number to call is 732-8000 if you'd like to call in and visit our studios. Sorry, I was distracted.
I know.
Visit our studios here at the...
She's coming in here, too. I saw her enter the door.
At the Paddock Mall. Visit us and say, hey, I'd like to advertise on WOCA. Veterans News is up next. Robin, how many stories do we get in there?
25.
25 stories.
Yeah.
Not bad. All right, we'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. Stormy weather is blasting parts of the country from Chicago and the Ohio Valley all the way south to Nashville and New Orleans, where tornadoes and damaging winds could cause havoc. Meanwhile, warmer weather in the Northeast could cause flooding. 2 former Navy SEALs have been found dead on the Maersk, Alabama, the same cargo ship made famous by the movie Captain Phillips. It's not clear how they died. An investigation is ongoing. Lawyers for singer Chris Brown are due back in court in D.C. today to discuss a trial date for a misdemeanor assault charge. Brown was arrested months ago after a man claimed Brown hit him while he was on probation for an assault on Rihanna. Doctors are warning parents about a viral drinking game. At least 5 people have died after playing what's known as Neck-Nominate. Young people film themselves drinking mixtures of alcohol and other things like engine oil or dog food and post online dares to friends to outdo them. If you know the way to San Jose, you might be a multimillionaire. The sole winning Powerball ticket was sold at a gas station in that area. It's worth $425 million. This is ABC News.
How do you know the used car you're getting is good? One you can really trust? Well, start with KBB.com's most trusted car brand, backed by an extensive limited warranty, and you've got yourself a certified pre-owned Honda. So get going while the getting is good. Find the one that's right for you at HondaCertified.com. See your Honda dealer for limited warranty details. Based on 2013 Brand Image Awards from Kelley Blue Book. Visit KBB.com for information.
This next song goes out to someone real special. Web developers. You've developed a worldwide web of convenience, and Geico.com is eternally grateful. Now everyone can pay bills, manage policies, maybe save big money on car insurance, all from the comfort of their desk chairs, recliners, and waterbeds. You're magicians with wands made of binary code, and that's why we're sending this next song out to you. For a free rate quote, visit Geico.com.
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Fredericks Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Fredericks Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Fredericks Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181.